So here's a thought experiment for you. Imagine you need to ask a really specific group of people a question. Let's say single parents, but only in one particular town. How on earth do you do that without first making a big list of who they are? Well, today we're diving into a system that's designed to do exactly that. It's called NKI granular polling. Let's get into it. The whole idea here really boils down to this one single question that sounds almost impossible. How do you get an opinion from single parents in a specific school district, or maybe get honest feedback from employees who fit a certain mold, without ever creating a list of them, without emailing them, and without building some giant database of their personal info? It really does sound like a riddle, but it's the exact problem this technology is built to solve. To really get why the NKI approach is such a big deal, we first have to look at how this problem is usually handled. And, well, the short answer is not very well. It usually involves a ton of privacy trade-offs. What's kind of wild about this is just how familiar it all looks. The old way, which is pretty much the current way, is all about surveillance. Companies and organizations, they build these massive databases on all of us. They buy up contact lists, they use trackers to follow you all over the internet, and they store your personal identity. And sure, this lets them target you, but it comes at a huge, huge cost. Every time you're targeted, a piece of your digital self is being bought, sold, and stored, and often without you really giving the okay. So NKai's solution isn't just a little tweak or an improvement. The source material calls it the Great Inversion, and that's exactly what it is, a complete 180-degree flip of the old model. Instead of the system coming to find you, something totally different happens. And this is the magic trick right here. This is the one core rule that makes the whole system tick. You do not target people. People target themselves into environments. So think about what that means. The power completely shifts from the person asking the questions to the individual. You are never, ever sought out. You are the one who chooses where to go.
So how does this big inversion actually work in the real world? It's not magic, of course. It's built on a really clever 3-layer cryptographic stack that creates these secure private spaces for polling. Okay, so the system uses 3 different filters, kind of like security checkpoints at an airport. The first one checks where you are. The second checks who you are in a certain context. And the third, and this is the most important one, makes sure that you are the one choosing to walk through those checkpoints. Let's break down each one.
So layer 1 is all about geography. Let's say a poll is only for people inside a certain school district's boundaries. Using a cool piece of tech called a zero-knowledge proof, you can prove you belong without ever giving up your secret, your address. It's like proving you know a secret password without ever having to say the password out loud. The system just gets a yes, they're eligible, without ever learning where you live or tracking your location. Now, let's move on to the second layer. This is where it gets really interesting. The system can also filter for a specific context, like being a single parent or a veteran. But here's the golden rule. These categories are never assigned by the system. You, the user, you self-attest to them. You basically raise your hand and say, "That's me," and you prove it with cryptography, all without the system ever building a profile on you or even knowing your name. And this final layer just ties it all together, voluntary entry. Nobody ever sends you a message or an email or a push notification saying, "Hey you, this poll is for you." Nope. Instead, you browse through different polling environments or modules, maybe based on topics you care about, and you decide if you want to walk through the door or not. Okay, I know this all sounds a little technical and abstract, so let's just walk through a real-world example to see what this would actually feel like if you were using it. All right, so picture this. You're a parent and you care about what's happening in your community. You open an app that uses this NK tech and you just start browsing a directory called Local Civic Polls. You're totally in the driver's seat, just seeing what's out there. So you're scrolling and something catches your eye. School District X Family Support Poll. Sounds interesting. But right next to it, you see the word locked. It seems relevant, but for now, the door is closed. Now, here's the really cool part. The second you see that locked poll, the system is already working in the background. Silently, instantly, it's using those zero-knowledge proofs to check 2 things. Can you prove you live in school district X and have you self-attested to being, say, a single parent? And if you meet both criteria, that locked tag instantly flips to unlocked. Just like that. The door is now open for you. And it's still completely your choice whether you want to go inside and participate. If you didn't qualify, by the way, it would have just stayed locked. No explanation, no fuss. So we've seen the how, but let's talk about the why. why does this model actually matter so much? Because this is a huge shift in how we think about our data, our identity, and how we participate in things. Not just in government, but in market research, academic studies, really any field that needs honest feedback without destroying privacy. The source material draws a really sharp contrast here. It sets this model against what it calls identity politics. In that world, labels are assigned to people. People are put into boxes. The Enkai way of thinking is totally different. It assigns contexts to spaces, and then people get to choose which of those spaces they want to enter. Power isn't based on a label someone sticks on you, it's based on your choice to show up and participate. This whole design has some really powerful protections baked right in, because it's always voluntary, and because you're the one attesting to the categories, the system can't force labels on you. And this is critical. Choosing not to participate, choosing to be silent, has zero penalty. The system simply has no way to force you to do anything or to build a profile on you. There's a quote from the source that it sums it all up perfectly. What you end up with is polling that is granular without being targeted, precise without being invasive, and powerful without being coercive. It gets the job done, getting that very specific feedback, but without all the toxic side effects. So the bottom line is this. You're swapping out that old surveillance model for 4 key things. First, you create secure, contextual spaces. Then, you use cryptography to prove someone is eligible without revealing who they are. Third, you make it totally voluntary to enter. And finally, you have a secure way to confirm that they participated so the results are actually valid. That's the whole engine right there. And that really brings us to our final thought. This entire model is built on a brand new possibility, and it leaves us with a really powerful question to chew on. What if having a voice, participating in our communities, and exercising real civic power didn't require us to constantly give up our personal privacy to do it?